We're at World Waterworks today, based in Bristol, who work quite closely with Humanity First in providing water kits which are used in our disaster response. Let's go inside and talk to Hugo, who's the director of World Waterworks, and find out what do they do, what does the kit consist of. Hi Hugo, can you give us a few seconds if we ask you a little bit of information about World Waterworks?
Yes, of course, no problem.
First of all, could you tell us what does World Waterworks do?
What we do is send humanitarian aid out very soon after a disaster. Usually it's a natural disaster, maybe an earthquake, a tsunami, cyclone, typhoon, that sort of thing. And it's really designed to give people a quick means of purifying water. As you would appreciate, in many cases there's lots of water, flooding for example, but the water is contaminated, so they need a means of purifying that water to stay alive and stay free from waterborne disease.
Brilliant. Could you talk us through maybe what the kit consists of? I know there's some items laid out here. I think it will be helpful to find out what items are actually in the kit and how is it actually packaged.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, and which obviously flows on from what I've already said, is the water purification. And we've recently changed from one based on chlorine tablets and a means of making them taste good, which is a carbon filter, to this item here, which is called an aqua filter. It's a commercially produced product, which we're able to get at a discounted rate because of being a registered charity. But what that will do is deliver up to 18,000 litres of clean water. And we reckon that a family of 5, for example, each member would get 10 litres a day for a year, which is a significant improvement on what we've had before. It works on the basis of a very fine filter, a micro porous filter, which is so fine that no bacteria can pass through. So the water under pressure will pass through here and comes out of this tube, this blue tube, and cup by cup or litre by litre you will get your water. So that's how it works. So that's the first thing, and that's the most important thing. Sure. Now in some cases we only send these out if all that's needed is a clean water system. Okay. But in many cases, indeed in most cases, they also need a whole raft of other vital items because they've lost everything. Their house has been destroyed, or it's been flooded and everything's been washed away or washed out to sea. So they will need basic things. If you like, I mean, they're one category you call health and hygiene. So soap is vital. People must keep clean, otherwise they run the risk of getting disease. So soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, things of that sort, antibacterial wipes. Quite often they will have cuts and bruises, so there are things like bandages and plasters, things like that. So that's one category. And then they need to eat and drink. So there's, if you like, a kitchen set. And here again you can see the sort of thing. We've recently upgraded to this standard. Previously we had not quite as good as that, but this is now a new product out of India that we've acquired. And there are 2 large cooking pans. There's a frying pan that has a separate handle to attach it, and then a set of 5 plates, 5 bowls over there, 5 mugs, and then there's cutlery and some knives and spoons for use in the kitchen itself. So that's the second broad category. And then the third would be what we would call simple tools and basic protected covering. For example, tarpaulin. There's a bivouac here, which can be made into a 2-man tent, that type of thing. So you've got a whole raft of, and then other things like these tools. There's some, like a Stanley knife here. There's a trenching tool here. There's a hammer. There's some nails and some rope. All those things come together as another category. And then odds and ends, I suppose, things like a poncho to keep people protected against the extreme of weather, very often monsoon type rain, those sorts of things that also go in. Anyway, you can see it all displayed there on the table.
Fantastic. I see that it's all packaged in a box. Is that correct? It just goes into a single box.
Here you can see a box that contains all those items. And you might say, well, the amazing thing is it all goes in the box, but it will. And so that all goes out. We send it by air, and usually between confirming the arrangement, somebody, for example, most recently, we had a request from Chile. They'd had an earthquake and a tsunami at the beginning of April, and we have spent the last 10 days confirming exactly what they want. They've done the needs assessment on the ground. We know they need clean water. We know that a number of the families have also lost all their household possessions, so they need this version of the box. And we're aiming to send 200 of those boxes out. Now, here we are 10 days after the event in a position to send them out. The paperwork's all going to be done, and they'll be on their way.
How long have you worked with Humanity First, providing these boxes?
I don't remember exactly how we first started the contact with Humanity First, but suffice to say, we have found it incredibly helpful to us. I guess it goes back about 7 years. And one of the first of those occasions was out in Bangladesh. There had been I think, sadly, all too often this happens, but a cyclone had come in and devastated the coastal area, and you were going out. We knew about that. We asked if we could send aid through Humanity First, whose local team in country then took responsibility for distribution. In fact, we don't send anything out to anybody unless we have an agency, whether it's Rotary at the other end or a recognized aid agency such as Humanity First, with whom we can say, can you sign up to our conditions of supply? Now, those conditions really involve agreeing to get them through customs at the other end, that there's no reason for them to be delayed at customs. If there are any local issues that need to be resolved, they are managed locally. Transport on to the disaster area, identifying through liaison with the local authority who are the families most in need, explaining to the families, demonstrating to them exactly how it all works, and then taking responsibility for the distribution and then giving us feedback. So there's something like 6 separate conditions that we require. But having said that, we then supply the aid at no cost, obviously, because we are ourselves a registered charity.
Sure. You mentioned one of the disaster settings already where you worked with Humanity First. Could you give us a few more details on some of the other disaster settings where you have worked with Humanity First and supplied these boxes?
Yes. Well, the Philippines is the one that I suppose is the most recent, but it's also one of the very first that we got involved in. That was Humanity First. We got involved. And again, the in-country team or representatives of Humanity First did the local needs assessment. They then liaised back with us. We liaised with Humanity First in London, who were able to coordinate. And then through that, we were able to send aid out and get the feedback that we were looking for. Now, that's happened on at least 3 occasions, most recently to do with the super typhoon Haiyan that hit in November 2013. So that was the most recent occasion. Another one that springs to mind is when we were trying to respond to the situation out in the Horn of Africa. Ironically, it was a drought there that caused lots of people to flee from Eritrea, from Ethiopia, from Somalia, trying to gain access to the refugee camps in Dadaab. And on the way, they were draining the water resources of all the people living in the small hamlets and towns en route. And in the end, Humanity First acted as our prime aid agency out in Kenya, but they also work with Save the Children. And because of the way they used our boxes there, instead of 300 families benefiting, which is what we would have expected from 300 boxes, they used them in a very sensible way and put them in schools, clinics and hospitals in those various small towns and habitations. And in that way, they reckon to have served something like 40,000 people with 300 boxes, which is quite phenomenal.
Thank you very much, Hugo. Thank you for your time today, and it was nice to hear what Waterworks do. Thank you.